So first up, I'd like to bring up our first ever sponsor, an amazing businesswoman, just an amazing human being, Shelley Walk of the Walk Law Firm. Let's give a round of applause. Come on up, Shelley. All right, thanks, buddy. You can give it a shot. All right, Shelley, so you get the first seat. You want to go up here? Yeah.
That would be a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You get to a certain age, you can't do these.
Oh, you're good.
Big step.
So, Shelley, if you could give us just a little background story of Shelley Walks. Quite a few members know you, but there's a lot of people that don't know your story, and it's a pretty amazing story. So can you just give us a little background of how you started your law firm here in Tampa, but a little what was going on before that?
So, a lot of you actually know me.
Hold on, someone turned it off on you.
Okay.
That happens.
I have a really big voice, so
No. Well, we're filming, yeah.
Okay, so a lot of you actually know me because in this audience I have a lot of clients. But for those of you who don't, I spent most of my career as a general counsel, chief administrative officer for huge public companies. You know, the multi-billion-dollar type. And I spent the first 5 years of my career at a huge law firm in Cleveland, Ohio. Went in-house to Sherwin-Williams. I left the legal department, ran a division called the Licensed Brands Division. It was Ralph Lauren and Martha Stewart, so I was no longer a lawyer. I was the responsible for a profit and loss statement, and it was a failing business, so my goal that year was to lose less than $2 million. And if I lost less than $2 million, I'd get my bonus. It was like such a deal. And we made $500,000 that year. So great victory. However, what I was very clear about is when they came to me and said, well, what can we do next year? I said, this is it. This isn't a business that we ought to be in because we can't make it as a licensed brand. We can't get enough profit because we share with so many people. But I spent a number of years running that organization, and then I left that company and went to another company as I was supposed to be head of corporate affairs. It was my first job in the C-suite of a public company. So when I left Sherwin-Williams, I was like the highest ranked woman in line management. It was in the 90s. And then I was in the C-suite of a public company. 9 months after getting there, they said, our general counsel is going to go on to a different job. Would you be general counsel too? I said, I haven't practiced law. No, it was called Ogilvy Norton.
Okay, got it.
It was a mining and minerals company on the Great Lakes. It was a NASDAQ national market company. And I hadn't practiced law for 5 years because I had been running divisions of Sherwin-Williams until then. And I was like, okay, I guess I could do that. And had to think a little bit about what it meant to become a lawyer again. Technically I was licensed. And that company went through a bankruptcy. So we tried to restructure out of court. I became the chief restructuring officer for that company, wound up having to take it through a Chapter 11 in Delaware. We reseated the board. I went through 4 chairmen, 3 CEOs, 2 CFOs, a partridge in a pear tree, and a number of other types of restructurings. Ultimately, I used to joke around, back then it was, Survivor was the big show on TV. And I used to say I was the survivor. I knew where all the bones were buried and what looked like, the backyard, so therefore I survived until we actually broke up the company and sold off the parts. The guy who was chairman of the audit committee said, have I got a deal for you? Anchor Glass in Tampa, Florida has been through 3 bankruptcies in 10 years, and you are the chief administrative officer, general counsel we need. Come on down. We got a new CEO, new CFO, and you're going to turn this thing around. 18 months, I swear it won't take longer than that. And you'll be on your way, but you'll fix the company. You'll renegotiate the labor contracts. It's all unionized stuff. So, just like what you did for the last 2 companies, it'll all be good. So, lo and behold, 3.5 years later, I found myself gainfully unemployed. I fixed the company the way we were supposed to. We got the company sold. We had recapitalized it. We sold it. And I found myself in my early 50s without a job. And I thought about what I wanted to do, and I had all these turnarounds available to me. And my husband said, I really like Tampa. I think we'll just stay here. And I said, okay. He said, but if you want to go and do all those other jobs, go for it. I'll just stay here. And I said, okay. And a friend of mine said, why don't you take the Florida bar? And I was like, oh my God, it's been 25 years since I took a bar exam. And the next thing you know, I was taking the bar exam. And I said, now what am I going to do? I'm kind of a jack-of-all-trades lawyer. I'm not a specialist. So I started a little law firm thinking, well, I'll just go do a little legal work. Thank God I don't really have to work. And, we could have a lot of fun and not work that hard. And then I met Chris. And the next thing you know, I met all of you. And I got a lot of clients. And now I work a really lot. But I actually kind of like it. So it's been 4.5 years. And
5 years.
Well, 5 years I've been a member here, right? So the firm, as the Walk Law Firm, has been around for 4.5 years. But you're right. I started on my own before that, and it was 5 years.
I remember that, and I remember you're like, yeah, I'm going to see what I could do, help people. I want to just do my thing. And one thing I appreciate is I asked you, do you go to court? And you said that I don't want to use my license to necessarily go to court. I want to help business owners and small businesses that need the help. Yeah,
so we exclusively represent businesses. That was sort of my deal. Is like, okay, we're going to only represent businesses. My dad was a small business owner. He owned drugstores when I was growing up. And I only wanted to do the part of law that I knew, which was what I did as a general counsel. I had people to go to court. So we actually only do the piece of law that relates to creating businesses, trademarks, partnership agreements, finance agreements. We represent a lot of private equity firms and a lot of small and startup businesses that are seeking the same kind of legal services I gave to major corporations, but they just don't need me every day. They need me when they need me, and they need me to back away the rest of the time. One of the other things that I thought I was kind of trying my hand at is I said we could price differently. Law firms price by the hour, and the client never knows what it's going to cost. And I said, that's ridiculous. As a general counsel, I always told the law firm what I'd pay. And, we were big. I could tell law firms that, look, you want to do work with us, this is what we're going to pay you. And so I finally came up with a pricing model where we do a lot of our work on a flat or fixed fee, where we actually can structure based on the work you need and tell you at the beginning what the cost will be.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to bring up the other panelists. Shelley has such an amazing history. I could listen to you forever. We got Adam DiMuzio of Red Rook. Adam, let's give Adam a round of applause. Come on up, Adam. So we've seen Adam grow his company over the years, and I'm going to let him kind of give us just a quick synopsis, Adam, of Red Rook and kind of what it is that you do.
Sure. So at Red Rook, our goal is to help people sell stuff in the easiest way possible. We help facilitate commerce across retail. So if you want to go into a retail store, how you can buy and sell goods in retail, online, in marketplaces like eBay or Amazon, social and mobile. So if you have goods you want to sell, our goal is to help you do that. So we started really as a niche in retail where we helped with numerous types of point of sale products. So we'd sell this hardware and software to anybody who wanted it, right? It was very much we called it a gun for hire type business. We would find someone who needed hardware and software, we'd put it in, and we'd never talk to that customer again. They came in for support, that was good, but if not, we had to find somebody else to sell to. So we lived hand to mouth for about 10 years. We had somewhere between 3 to 7 employees and do $500,000 year in, year out. With
Adam, let me just explain something because people might be wondering. So if you've ever gone to a museum and you went to the gift shop to buy something for a kid or yourself, they have a cash register.
Right, so effectively cash registers, yes.
Yeah, he manages the software in that cash register. So he has the Mint, is it Guggenheim?
So the Guggenheim, the Mint, the
so
Mint
his
Museum.
niche is very specific, but it's gift shops in all these different museums. His company manages the software that they run their cash registers.
Right.
So that's what he's saying. He's like the middleman that helps that software function.
Right. So we do the hardware, the software, and then the services around it. That's how we kind of started growing to that because initially it was just kind of whatever we could find. But yeah, now we do have we said, okay, how do we grow? Let's get
so
a
how
niche.
many years were you kind of flat? Like you
about 10-ish.
So for 10 years, you're kind of going along, and you were happy, things were working.
People came in, we sold stuff, and they left, and we sold something else.
Okay.
But that's when we said, okay, we need to have. How do you niche to get known in one area. So we found a strategic partner that we were able to grow with, and their niche was museums. So here locally, like the Ringley Museum down in Sarasota, the Guggenheim in New York, the Mint Museum, also the U.S. Mint is one of our clients. So we started growing within a museum space, which really got us a lot of traction. And what we learned is by selling, say, support on a yearly basis, we had these customers always coming back, which allowed us to get now all of a sudden a financial background that we didn't have before. Because now instead of having to necessarily go and get all of the money every month to survive every month, people sent us money just to make sure we were always there, right? So
consulting
right.
to monitor.
It was even the support level before consulting.
Managed service,
yeah.
Right. All right.
Which then allowed us to get into consulting as well, because now we had customers calling us, well, what about this? And then we could say, okay, outgoing, how can we help you more? So we actually got a lot stronger in doing that and learning how to grow as a business entity is with it.
So from the $500,000 mark, when did you start growing? Is it 4 years ago?
About 4 years ago, and we went from 750, and the next year was 1.5, and then 1.8, 2.3, 2.6, because now it's been a consistent effort to say, how do you grow? What do we want to focus on? And even if we want to take steps back sometimes, there have been years we said, let's actually not grow. Like this year has been a flat year, but by design. By design. To make sure that next year is going to be a
And what's the award
year.
that you guys got from a magazine?
We were on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in the U.S.
Awesome. So you talk about kind of how you set goals. Now, you have a very eclectic team. Let's just...
so yeah.
They're into wrestling, right?
Well, we do every month.
That's Adam somewhere over there, right? Adam,
right
there.
Yeah. So actually we have the belt is actually, we told everybody in the company that someone in the company has the next $1 million idea. It's going to make the company $1 million or save us $1 million. And it's not going to necessarily come from me or anybody else. So every month we allow up to 3 employees to pitch anything they want to the entire group. And everyone gets then votes on who wins in terms of what the best idea was that came out of it. And the winner gets the belt. So that's Cosroy.
Oh, so he won.
He
the
won
belt
it that month.
And what is this?
What is? It was a parking spot. So the winner got the front parking spot.
Who's
as
on
well.
the parking spot?
It's John Cena. It says the champ parks here.
So that's a nice little theme. You get the champion belt and
yes,
John
the winner
Cena.
gets the belt. They get the front parking spot. They got like lunch veto power.
But you like gamified. Oh, yeah. What's lunch veto power?
Because the group goes out to lunch a lot. And so let's say you don't want to go to you know, wherever you're going for the pizza place that day, you have to actually the veto power say, nope, we're not doing pizza today. So
that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, so it was huge.
Those simple things, right? That's what the whole episode of Seinfeld was based on, you know.
But mostly they got the pride to say, hey, go figure out that idea, but don't just say, hey, here's an idea. Like put a plan in place. And we would tell people, you need a couple $100 to do it, just do it. Give me a receipt because we want you to get that.
And we'll get to your growth strategy because you could kind of program growth, and whenever you do, it seems your company always responds to it because of the culture you've built.
Right, the culture, and you said gamify very much so. We want to have leaderboards and scoreboards, and everything's treated as a game to try to make sure that you are playing.
All right, next up we're going to bring our third panelist, Renika Richardson. Renika, where are you? Come on up, let's give a round of applause. So Renika owns Elegance Cleaning. Is it Elegance Cleaning Solutions or
Elegance Cleaning and Maintenance?
And maintenance. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you came to before Elegance Cleaning. You know, just give us a little synopsis of your story.
Well, I have a corporate background. I worked my degrees in aeronautics, and I love all that stuff. But I'm a serial entrepreneur too. I figured out after I worked at Boeing and I worked at General Dynamics, and I love that work because I have I mean, it's just the coolest thing ever, right? Technology I love, but I found out that I had a hard time working for people that, when I boiled it down, they just weren't very smart. And so I was pretty rebellious. I was young, and I went, my career started at 18 with, in aerospace. And so I went high through the ranks at a very young age in a male-dominated industry. And it was rough. So at one point, that picture is me, and
which this one?
That picture is me while I was working at Boeing with my coworker. As a coworker, we weren't even really friends. We just came up with an idea to do a business, and we started doing something. Look, we're going to do this thing. Started doing this thing out of our kitchen, and came up with a line of healthy ice cream bars, and we just pitched it. Didn't spend $1. and found companies that were willing to work with us just because we had a good idea that they didn't have. And ended up getting 3 different flavors. Coco Loco was my favorite. But in grocery stores from New York to Texas, all the way down the seaboard. And I was 25 years old and didn't spend $1 of my own money to make that happen. And that was a success story, but it also failed. And it taught me a lot, because after that company went down, it was about 3 years before I could go down the frozen food aisle I just couldn't, I couldn't go down past the ice cream, couldn't look at it, I was just PTSD from that whole experience. But what it did was it really laid the groundwork. So I had that aeronautics education. I had, that experience. And then when I was ready again, I decided, okay, I'll do this thing. And I wasn't really even trying to start this little cleaning company. I just had a neighbor who needed some extra grocery money. And I knew a lot of people because I had moved here. My husband's got stationed at MacDill, and we ended up staying here. He retired, and, we love it here. And I was just helping a friend out, but one account per week for $60 turned into just a machine. And then after the first full year of really not paying attention, just doing very little to feed the engine, we made 50 grand. I looked at the numbers, how the hell did that happen? Not even trying, we made 50 grand. And that was the first van that we bought. Her name was Gussie. And that was, that some of my team years ago, where we, participated in a parade and, started having that kind of fun. Since then, we've grown pretty substantially, but I guess we'll get into that.
Well, just touch a little bit where you are now.
Well,
how many years ago was that picture taken?
That picture was taken probably 4 years ago.
Okay.
And that was the only van we had.
So the first year was kind of like a hobby business. You made 50 grand. You're like, okay, great. When did you start really applying?
Well, after the first year, I decided, okay, that I've got to pay a little more attention to this. And, I multiplied myself. I hired another person on commission. I said, look, I'm going to put you in a B&I group. Your job is to have fun. Don't worry about anything else. Just go have fun. Enjoy your time. Enjoy the people you meet, and the money will come. So after the first year, after the next year with somebody in a group, we made 100 grand. Just doing that. And now I guess we're in our 5th full year, and we're well over $1 million. And we've got a fleet of vehicles. We're in multiple states.
17?
10 states 10? Officially, 17
is the goal,
on the rise.
On the rise, right. Okay.
And the hopper. So we're in 10 states where we actively work right now. This is not franchised, but I set the business up. Initially, when I started it, I knew I need to set this up as if I'm going to do it over and over. So I wrote down my processes. I did all of those things, not knowing that it was going to turn into this, but I knew that that's what I needed to do just in case. So I set it up like a franchise, and thankfully, thanks to Shelley, this in a couple days we're going to be selling our first franchise.
Wow.
So
great job, team. That was awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Let's give a round of applause. Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, but it's good to have good legal counsel. Yeah. So let's save that, because we also want to bring Naeem Hamdar of Synergistic Funding. Naeem, coming up here. Let's give Naeem a round of applause. So Naeem, if you could just share a little bit of your story, and then we'll go into kind of how you guys use goal setting and how you really motivate your team yourselves. But give us a little background of Naeem and how you started out.
Sure. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? I started extremely young in age. Even back to when I was 8. Gathering up all the kids, going to the neighbors, cutting lawns, making commission on everybody else, and doing nothing I always had that type of mindset.
Well, you did something. You managed the team, yeah.
I created the concept. At 18 years old, I'm from a Middle Eastern background. We don't move out of our parents' house until we get married, right? So at 18 years old, I'm like, you know what? I'm moving out on my own. I want to support myself. I want to do everything on my own. For the first year, I worked 2 jobs, Ruth Chris and Charlie's Steakhouse,
nice.
Competing brands. And then I used to be in a fraternity. So in the fraternity, we'd go out a lot. So I had this idea. I'm like, why don't I make money off of everybody that's going out? And my first business was launched at the age of 19. I had 20 employees. It was all under the table, so I won't get into it too much.
What was it, promotions business?
It was a promotions business, yeah. So for nightclubs and restaurants all over the Tampa area.
Nice.
From there, I did that for about 4 years, then went into the cell phone business. I had 3 cell phone stores. From the cell phone stores, I got a job offer from T-Mobile. I was their Tampa regional manager. I managed an area from a pretty large area, over 120 stores for T-Mobile. I did that for about 2 years, because I was just graduating from college. I found out very quickly that corporate was not my thing.
Can you talk about what happened? You have an interesting story about the scale and the salary, the bonus structure.
Yeah, so I won't get into too deep into the story, but the corporate world, the more you work, the more money you make them. So I came into a market that was dying. I worked my butt off. I drove about 60,000 miles, and probably 66 to be exact, because my market was so large. I doubled the market within the first year. My income increased this much. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow. I'm not going to get promoted because the next level of promotion would be the national director, and those guys have been there for ages. Unless they die, I'm not going to get that job, right? So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it another year. I did it another year, grew the market by 60%. My income went up this much. So I'm like, you know what, I've had enough of this. I sold my cell phone stores, and I got into the credit card processing business. Got into the credit card processing business with a friend. He was a friend at the time. I invested everything I had, went into business with him. It turned out he knew nothing about the business. Everything that he told me was basically a lie, and I was ruining my reputation. And my reputation is all I had in the Tampa Bay area. So I figured it out pretty quickly. Well, it took me a year, not quick, but figured it out in time where I was down to my last $5,000.
Wow.
We had made promises to certain people for referring us business, fees that we billed them wrong. So I took $3,000 out of the $5,000. I went and took care of those people, even though it wasn't my responsibility. I was down to $2,000. I made some connections in the industry. So I teamed up with a group of guys out of Pittsburgh, out of Cleveland at the time, the Shanahan brothers. They had just sold a company and were launching a brand new company. So rather than recreate the wheel, I teamed up with them, opened a corporate office for them here, and we kind of partnered up. 10 years later, this was back in 2006 when we did that. 10 years later, I have over 2,700 customers here in our local office, 60,000 customers nationwide, and we just recently went public. We had one commitment, and that one commitment was to always take care of our customers no matter what. So we would create relationships with local business owners, such as these people up here, and we would refer them out as our customers needed them. One of the things that they always needed was financing. So we would create relationships with bankers all over the Tampa Bay area. Back in 2007, 2008, you guys know the story. Banks were not lending. So we had to go out and find alternative lending solutions for our customers. We're doing it as a free service for them. So we would go out, we would, whatever funding requests you had a need for, we'd go out, identify it, and provide it for you. Well, after doing this for about 2 years, we're like, this is another business. Why don't we make money off of this? Why don't we brand it and start a second company? And that's how synergistic funding was born.
Awesome. So here's what we have, because we're going to go into now the goal setting, how they manage growth. Bonnie, thank you for your questions. And we'll have the phone number, should be up on the slides. That's the phone number if you want to text in your question, 727-858-8131. But we have Naeem, who has one company that he launched, and that gave birth to a second company. So it's a merchant account company, then it gave birth to synergistic funding, alternative funding for businesses. Ronika, who has a cleaning company that's going national, and she's also a franchisor. She's selling franchises. And yeah, we'll talk about that. And she also has a product that was born out of what she uses, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Adam, who has a managed, Adam actually has, your company has birthed like 3 divisions, correct?
Right, so we do.
Give him the mic real quick.
Sorry. So yeah, so it's consulting, and then it's a traditional VAR in terms of reselling products and then supporting them. And then we actually developed our own products as well. So we actually have a product division that kind of is our new spirit.
So his company kind of has 3 divisions, and then Shelly has her law firm, and she has other lawyers that work under her that she's developing into leaders in the community. And you're doing a great job with the people you're developing. So let me ask you guys this. 2017 is around the corner. How have you kind of set goals, and what are the goals you've set for 2017, and what is the philosophy you're going to go about to grow your business? I was going to start with you, Adam, since you had the mic, and then we'll so Adam, since you have the mic, how are you, what are the goals you're setting for your company? Because I know you hit a plateau this year intentionally, but where are you taking it for 2017?
Okay, so how we set goals is badly, really. I mean, we kind of look and say, okay, where were we last year, and then what's next? How can we improve in all of our 3 areas? How do we get more consulting? How do we get new clients that we can sell to increase hardware and software sales? And how can we firmly establish this new product line that we have and push it forward? So as we do that, we look at all of those and say, which ones do we want to concentrate on? If we only have so much time, effort, and energy, which ones come along for the ride, and then go from there. So when we launch a new product, we did this last year, we think we can probably sell, let's say 40 licenses was the number we thought we might get to. But we didn't know. So we say, great, our goal is going to be 400. We literally just added a 0 to it. We did 160. So we quadrupled what we thought we could do, even though we didn't hit the goal. But that's really great. Now we have some history to say, okay, now this year, if we did 160 last year, if we're going to put focus on that, we could do 300, let's say, because now we have a better process on how to sell that. So it's really to come down to each line and then say how we want to improve it. And that's kind of how we go from there, and then just kind of bounce around and say, okay, sales, what can you do? Operations, can you support this? Because if sales outsells what we can actually perform, that's bad. Or do we need to hire new people? So right now we're actually gearing a hiring spree so that as we have some new partnerships that are coming together, the year looks very bright. So now we just got to make sure we can then start fulfilling what we're selling. Okay,
Shelly, how about you? How do you set goals internally?
So for us, I started this firm 5 years ago with, honestly, I just wanted to make enough money so it didn't cost me money. And it grew really fast. So I'm used to this big formal corporate process that starts in June, and it's top down and bottom up and mixed in the middle. And what I really came to is for a small business, it needs to be a lot more flexible than that. Your needs and your goals change as your year transpires, as it goes on. So my real goal for our firm is for me to be able to retire. I know it sounds crazy, but that's my goal. I want to be able to retire and leave the attorneys that I have developed in the firm a place where they can continue to operate, and the way that they'll pay me, if you will, for buying my firm out will be because I'll get some annuity. I'll continue to work, but I'll work less. So to do that, and I know you put some things up.
Is it the transparency
It's
one?
transparency.
Yeah.
And so the most important thing is, just like in a public company, I share my financials. I share everything about our company. I don't keep anything sacred. If there's issues on the table, the first thing before we start any planning session, you start with the moose in the middle of the table. If people come into the session with some hang-up, whether it's the computer didn't work right today, the phone had a little glitchy sound, one of the other attorneys didn't do something they thought should have gotten done, or the administrative staff didn't get the bill out right, You got to get that stuff off the table to start. And then you need to sit down and say, now that we're done with that, where are we really going? And transparency is everything, flexibility. And I do make the attorneys tell me where they want to take the firm. So they have a huge goal for next year. And I said, that's great. I'll support it. How are you going to get there? And I really push hard on my team to tell me what they're going to do.
Okay, and Adam, just real quick, you also share your numbers, right? Are you open?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we share everything. With the exception of salaries of individual people, we want everyone to know everything about the company. Anything you want to ask me, I would answer for an employee. And then I try to make sure things are very, very easy to understand. One thing we've realized in the growth pattern is people in general don't want to look through a P&L, right? My employees don't care. I mean, they'll look through
profit and loss statement.
Profit and loss. They're just going to say, okay, we made money or not, but even that becomes very confusing to them. Well, if we made $100,000, why can't I make more? Okay, let me tell you that. So we actually break down a lot of fundamentals into very small metrics so that every individual employee can say how we run the company, which then allows it for growth from every angle.
All right, Ronika, how do you look at growth?
Well, I think it's probably like a lot of you guys. We start the year off, it's all good, we got a plan, we're good. Then you get halfway through the year, the plan is out the window, and you're just flying by the seat of your pants. That's what we do. It's not good. It's not good. But I think it happens to all of us.
Absolutely.
And all of these guys included, because one thing that we have to do and make sure that we always do is be flexible. We just kind of go with the flow. We got a new customer, they show up, they pop up, they got 3 big buildings, we got to go, we make it happen. So there's not a specific structure, but the things that work are making sure that me personally, I have to stop what I'm doing and I have to walk away. For me, I have to just stop, walk away, go for a weekend, be by myself, because then it's like it's like getting a tune-up. You know, my brain gets back in it, and I'm like, okay, I got it. Then all these great ideas come up, and then I start 10 more companies. Just kidding. But something that's important is to go back to basics. When I started the company, and I put that person in a BNI group, I started what we call KPIs, key performance indicators. So, and that's something that I took from my corporate background, and I just implemented it right into my company. And we went very, very basic. We just set minor goals. So I'm going to say BNI as an example, because if you're not in a group or something like that, a TBBO or something, it really gives you the structure. You don't have to know squat about selling, but what that does is it makes you disciplined, and it teaches you how to just stay focused and on your path. So in that case, so I put somebody in a group. I said, okay, what's your goal for one-to-ones this week? Because that's a BNI goal. That's one of their high-level goals. You got to have 3 one-to-ones this week. Well, that was our company goal. So if that's what they committed to in BNI, it was on paper, and I was holding them accountable for it. You know, how many referrals did you pass this week? Because BNI is an example of giver's gain. So I want to make sure that my people understand that concept. And that was one of our measurements. And at the end of the day, everything that those organizations are teaching you results in dollars. That's what it boils down to. And I just went through this whole process myself. I got this $1 million company, and I just figured out, well, shit, I got to go back to one-to-ones, and, you know, I got to because somehow I got away from it. Because it happens. And
absolutely.
But I got to go back to that, because that is what works.
Naeem, how about with you and your team?
So I'll tell you, for me, Chris, it's all about the psychology. I'll tell you about, you know, when I first started the company, you know, I used to get dressed up in a suit, show up to the office at 6 a.m. Mind you, I had no customers. I would show up into this office all by myself. I had this board, and I would study, you know, successful people, right? If I want to achieve a certain level of success, I have to imitate somebody, right? So I would study these people, and I would literally sit there and create scenarios well, once I have 30 accounts, do I have the facility to be able to support this, right? So I'm all about the imagination first, so that you can see it coming, and then you can plan for it. And then, so that's the concept that I've established the company on. So I would have a board, I would write in all of these fake accounts that in my head I was signing up.
Imaginary accounts, right.
Imaginary accounts on this white board.
We have a sample board, yeah.
Yeah, and it's always there. Well, this is my office now, so there's no board.
But so there's a whiteboard in the one.
Yeah. So I would write all of these accounts, and then sooner or later they just started filling up with the real account, and I would erase the fake one, right? So I use that concept with all of my people. So the way I've set my goals is I'm all about people, helping my staff. You know, if they believe that they can achieve a goal, then I'll help them accomplish the goal. Because I'm not going to do the work for them. They have to do the work, right? So my goals are a result of their goals, and their goals are a result of their personal beliefs. So if you want to achieve $100,000 as a sales representative of mine, you know, I'm going to attach it to something that means something to you. It's not about that figure. That figure is just, you know, it's up in the air. It's in the bank account. You may not even see it, right? But what does that $100,000 mean to you? Is it your kid's education? Is it a new vacation? Is it a new car? You know, I attach meanings behind it, and then it makes it easy for them to accomplish it. And,
cool.
And then the other concept is it's all about the customer. So we base our goals on how we can serve our customers. In doing so, you know, right now we went and started to create a technology in order to streamline our products so that we can help our customer. And out of that, you know, we might be doing a merger with a technology company. So we might be starting a third company now, out of a need for our customers.
Right, you followed the need for the customers. Shelley wants to say something.
You know, one of the things I've heard from everybody here, and certainly in both my firm as well as my past career, is so much of getting to your goals and achieving your goals is culture. And so what Adam does at his company creates a kind of culture that causes people to want to succeed. The same thing with Naeem, same thing with Ranika. I know at our firm we do the same thing, you know, even with lawyers. Hard to imagine getting lawyers excited, but, you know, their compensation is very much directly related to their productivity. We have KPIs, but it's a cultural thing. It's not just about talking about the goals. It's about a culture of achievement and in a kind of a freedom to have a frank conversation. And I think, you know, I've learned a lot about Adam's. Actually, I know about pretty much all your companies. But I think I really admire what they have all done with their culture to try and create these goals and achieve them.
So Shelley, this brings us to Adam, because this is a question that was brought up that I think is very valid for Adam. It's if you could expand upon your gaming practices for growth with your team. So
Sure.
Talk about the gamification of your culture in your company.
Yeah, sure. So the idea behind using gamification and gaming is if you play a game, so you're playing a video game, there's a leaderboard, right? I mean, I grew up playing Galaga, right, in the arcade, and how high can I get up the leaderboard? And that's basically the same thing. I mean, if you look at a company, your net revenue or your net income at the end of the year is that leaderboard for a company. And so we took that same concept and say, how can we make that something that our employees can use? So in terms of that, I mean, we'll talk about metrics like our support team. How many tickets did you close a day or a week or a month, right? If we have 3 people in the team, who got more? Like, who closed more tickets? Or what was your efficiency rate? Like, did you close them in average of 1 hour and average of 30 minutes? And we post that so people can see, and then they can get better. Like, I can do this or I can do that. You also then say, well, I had harder tickets, so mine, numbers weren't as high. And that's all fine. We want to make sure everyone kind of can share in that. But we'll do that everywhere. We'll have corporate goals that will say, here's a number in terms of hours that we have to implement this month. So it's sales has to sell time, consulting has to create the time and do the work, billing has to bill it out, and support has to do work to make sure that everyone's schedules stay free. But if as a company we hit that magic number, 300 hours or whatever, we immediately, like on the spot, every month, I'll tell everybody, hey, listen, we hit 280, goal was 300, we didn't make it. This month, goal was 301, we hit 301. We throw out $100 gift cards to everybody on the spot. Everyone gets money as a bonus to say, listen, we did it as a company. It's excitement. It doesn't matter if you're an hourly employee or me, the president.
Adam, can you talk about your bathrooms?
Yes. So we moved into a new office, and we gave anybody who wanted it $500 to decorate a bathroom however they wanted to. So we have a Super Mario Brothers bathroom. We have a Game of Thrones bathroom.
I wish I had the pictures, but it's pretty comical that his employees, and it looks really good. For the $500, they did a great job.
And we said, you got to do it on your own time. People came in on the weekends, and they teamed up. We said, it's $500 per bathroom, whatever you want to do. And but it allowed everyone to really kind of say, okay, how do I create something for myself? How does, new building, we're growing. I mean, I think that year we went from 7 to 18 employees. So it was, how do I, fit in? How do I leave my mark on something? And so it was a fun way to do it.
Our Naeem has something, and then we're going to go into a speed round because we're getting a lot of great questions. After Naeem answers this, the question is, do you have any profit-sharing programs with your employees? So if anyone wants to talk about how you do that, Naeem, go ahead.
Yeah, so games is a great way to get people motivated. What we do is, I don't know if you have a picture, but we have a basketball.
Yep.
We have a basketball hoop, like one of those tiny basketball hoops in the office. So our office is pretty lean. We only have 5 people in the office, and most of my salespeople work on their own outside of the office. So to create a sense of competition, we just have basketball games. Whenever I see somebody tired, hey, I'm challenging you, come on. We play the best out of 3, and it's just shots, right? And it creates a sense of competition. It gets them back in their seat, pumped up. They have energy.
I also like the quotes that you have all around the walls in your offices. So it's really inspiring to have that environment. And you obviously wanted to create an environment where if someone's looking at the wall, they're looking at something that would inspire them. And it's inspiring to be in the office.
Those are all quotes that we came up with together. We said, what are the quotes that represent the company? And let's put them where we can all see them. And let's look at them every time you're speaking to a customer. Remember, are you asking the right questions? Are you doing all of these things that we believe? So they're a constant reminder of who we are as a company.
So who wants to take on profit sharing or kind of motivating? Shelley, Adam, do you guys want to talk about how you kind of handle that?
So we work on a profit sharing basis. So my attorneys get salaries, and they get bonuses based on bringing in clients, and they get bonuses based on semi-annual results. I believe in line of sight, so I don't make people wait for a whole year to find out how they did. So every 6 months, we'll sit down and look at results, and based on profits and revenue collected. So billed and collected. I don't do it on billable hours. I don't care if you work 5 hours and can charge $10,000 an hour for it, or if you work, for 10,000 hours and charge $1 an hour. It's billed and collected, and all of my attorneys and my administrative staff make money when I make money.
Adam, do you kind of, the whole group, you got like bonus or parties and stuff, right?
We do a lot of parties. We do a lot of again, to kind of facilitate the culture. We actually created a non-commission strategy and sales team, because what we discovered in our typical environment, that if a salesperson is commission-based, they will make decisions that affect them financially, which may not be for the good of the company. And so we actually created an entire not commission-free sales force, which was a change. It was a radical change of direction. It even gave people into our sales team. That's how much commission do I make? None. It's a shocking thing, but we go to the whys, and then the culture hopefully backs it up.
So they're buying into the culture.
You got to buy into the culture, and we want to make sure that everyone's decisions impact the company in the same way, and then
Naeem,
everyone's rewarded the same way.
Ronika, do you have anything? Or Naeem, do you have something to share on that?
We actually do the total opposite to Adam. So it's 100% commission, but the way we get paid is residual payment, right? So if a customer stays with us, then we make money. If a customer doesn't stay with us, we don't make anything. End game, right? So we need to keep that customer on as long as possible. So 100% of a sales rep's income is commission, right? So if the customer is not satisfied, they don't make anything, right? It's very simple. So their job is to keep that customer satisfied.
Okay, Ronika?
Well, these guys have a lot of money in their coffers, and I run a cleaning company, and I have a couple other companies, so we're cash flow poor. We make a lot of money on paper. So some of the things that we do, actually, because we don't have a lot of cash to be able to give, but we'll pay a bill. You know, we encourage our employees, and I've got like 150 employees across the United States. We want them to tell us if they're struggling with something, and they do. A lot of them are prideful, but they know that we've got their back. And even if it's just, you know, paying a light bill for them, if they ask us, we will do it. And I think that they appreciate that. We're just not in a position to be able to profit share or to be able to, you know, we don't have traditional salespeople anymore, not like that. So
Runika, also on that point, you had an interesting thing that happened recently because you use a certain cleaning solution. So can you talk about, all of you have had opportunities because of your business. Runika, you had one recently that's pretty interesting. Talk about what happened with your cleaning business.
Early on, you know, as we started getting bigger, I started going out and, you know, I was buying all these commercial products and visiting all these places, and I was spending a lot of money on it, and the stuff really wasn't that good. I just got tired of spending the kind of money that I was spending. So because I had this background and I knew that, hey, somebody can figure out how to make my ice cream and mass produce it, let me try to figure out a cleaning solution that I can have mass produced. And I did that. I found a lab, and they made a product to my specs, and it's an all organic product, and I gave it to my team. I said, just go start using it. They loved it. Customers freaking loved it. I'm like, great, I got the next big thing. And that was like 3 years ago. It died on the vine because the business was growing so rapidly. I had to focus on that. I couldn't focus on the product, but that has come full circle now. And we're preparing for a big launch next year of Orange Organics is what it's called. And it's an all organic, naturally, or a natural, environmentally friendly cleaner and degreaser that is ours.
And it comes from the citrus tree, right? It's like from the enzyme of the citrus.
Yeah, basically they isolated the enzyme in the orange peel. And, you know, it's kind of like orange oil or something like that, but it's a little bit of a different formula. And we use it exclusively, and we sell it to our customers because they want it. But we haven't sold it in mass quantities yet, and that happens in February.
Talk about kind of how that went about.
You want me to spill the beans?
Yeah.
Well, my product, HSN wants my product. So, thank you. So, in a nutshell, they loved it, and I was going to have Adam pitch it because he's just crazy, and they said no.
They want you to pitch it.
They want the owner, and so I guess I'm pitching. I'll be on HSN in February.
I had
with
Runika
Orange
bring.
Organics.
If anyone, this is the actual you
the
get
product
it in
is
bigger.
in there.
Yeah,
It's just
but it'll be packaged differently. But for those of you on the panel, I know you want to see what this is.
Yeah.
It smells just like an orange tree. It's pretty amazing.
So we're going on 2 parallel tracks. We've got the whole television thing, but we're also going to be in all major retail stores, and all of that happens first quarter. So excited, but that's just an indication of whatever your business is. You need to be paying attention to those other little things that are happening around you. I didn't start that business with the intention of having a friggin' cleaning product. No way.
But you did it because you needed a better cleaning product for your
cruise.
I
needed something better that worked better, and I found that solution. So just pay attention to those, because we all get them. As an entrepreneur, all of you guys, entrepreneurs, you guys are getting these little seeds of information and things that are just like, oh, that's a great idea. Just go for it.
So this is a question that came in from Naeem, but I'd like to ask everybody and start with Naeem. Is there you were saying that you modeled successful people and you read a lot of things. Is there a must-read book that you would recommend, or something that really stuck out with you when you were growing your business and your systems? Is there anything that you really would recommend?
There's a lot of books. I'm more of a video type of guy than a books. I do read books, but Tony Robbins was phenomenal. I bought a Tony Robbins CD back when I first started my business. And I would just, when I said I came into the office, I would come into the office. First thing I do is put that CD on, then go on and begin to research successful people. I researched multimillionaires because that's where I want to be, eventually. And, it's the psychology of these people is one in which gives you the groundworks in order to be successful.
The roadmap.
The roadmap. So one of the things that they do is wake up very early, right? I wake up early. I wake up at 4:30 now. My wife hates it. I love it. I'm used to it, right? So what do you do when you get up that early? Well, I pray. That's a morning routine for me. I get up, I pray, I go to the gym. So by the time that the typical person is waking up, guess what? I'm wide awake. I'm ready to attack them, So I'm at a totally different level than they are. People waking up at 9 o'clock, guess what? I've already had a 5.5 hour start on my day. You're way behind. Now I get to sleep early, but that's another story.
Renika? Just a quick business book or something you enjoyed that you'd want to pass on.
Actually, there's no better business, person behind me than my dad. Honestly,
Nice.
I mean, he lectured me to death, and now he's doing that to my daughter, so it's much better. But the biggest thing is that the biggest thing. I'm an only child and his only girl, so the big thing was to make sure that I did everything to perfection, and that if it didn't end up perfect, fine. But how I conducted myself and how I dealt with business and how I dealt with life itself had to be beyond reproach, so that nobody can come to me and say, you did something wrong. Nobody can say that. So that's one of the things that has stuck with me through business. And I deal with all of my customers. Sometimes we don't get it right. But we make it right. And that's something that sticks for my dad.
Adam, piece of advice from you?
So actually I read a lot, and I listen to a lot of books on Audible, and then I'm a really bad person at being able to actually implement what I hear and read. But then I'll go back and I'll reread things, and I'll like, wow, I actually did that, right? I don't consciously do it. It's just kind of like the repetitive of doing it. As I look back at things like, the Blue Ocean Strategy is a very important book to me in terms of like things that I implemented because of that concept.
Can you explain that just real quick? Because that's a great book.
Yeah, the Blue Ocean Strategy just says that there are, whatever business you're in, there's probably 1,000 other companies doing something very similar, and there's probably no one doing something a little bit different. And if you can do the little bit different, you can swim in that blue ocean instead of the bloody waters where everybody else is. As you kind of figure out what those niches are and how you can grow in a different way, it allows you usually to have better margins, actually sell more and not have competition. And that's what we've determined. That's what we've seen in our success too. Things like Rich Dad Poor Dad, in terms of a general how business runs. Yeah. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in terms of communication and how to actually communicate with people. Are probably the biggest ones.
Shelley?
So I'm a huge reader, but I don't really read those kinds of books. I'm a fan of mentors, and I've had tremendous mentors in my career, most of whom have been male CEOs of really, really big public companies. And so a couple of things that I've always learned and taken away from, for instance, the CEO and chairman of Sherwin-Williams was he was a family guy and a CEO. One of my mentors said, dress the way you want people to perceive you in your next job. Don't dress the way you want people to perceive you today. And always take that next step. The one thing that I did attend, and this was probably 20 years ago when I might have been the only woman in the boardroom at some of these public companies, I went to a seminar about communication. And I learned very quickly in this communication seminar, it was right around the time men are from Mars and women are from Venus. It's true in the workplace too. And one of the things you realize is the way that we communicate varies by who you are, your personality type, whether you're a man or a woman, the background you have, certain, accountants or CFOs might need the spreadsheet before you come talk to them. Certain customers may be in a situation where, They need to have the top line and the top line only. Do not try to sell them on the details of how the darn thing works. Just tell them what it's going to do for them. And you have to learn to read the people. It was a phenomenal seminar. And if you have never taken a seminar on communications, I don't care what field you're in, you ought to seriously think about it.
All right, awesome. That's for Shelley.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Well, they're all going to
Now you might have something. And then I'm going to ask you guys the last question, which is, what's on the agenda for 2017 for your teams, your companies? And then there's a lot of questions like people were asking about the non-commission structure. What I would invite everybody to do, if I didn't ask your question, everybody here is more than happy to have a conversation with you once we wrap this up about whatever that question is. So Naeem, go ahead.
A couple of books that I could recommend, highly recommend, are Winning by Jack Welch.
That's a great book.
That's
yeah.
a great book. If you have an established business and you're looking to take that business to the next level, Winning is definitely a book that you want to read. And 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Say that again?
5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Lencioni.
All right. And then, Naeem, give us where you see your team and yourself growing in 2017. What's your vision?
Well, our vision, our focus, on Card Connect, we're a public company now. We have 2,700 customers, so we're at sustainability, right? So we're on cruise control, and we're driving, that ship. What we're looking to do is integrate a lot of technology into it and have a heavy focus on ISVs, independent software vendors. Because where we're going as a company is a technology company, and we're looking to connect with those who are looking to make a difference, in terms of automation in particular. So we want app developers, we want point of sale manufacturers that are looking to create something different. Why we love those types of relationships is because they're always adding value. And those who are adding value in this day and time, they're not going anywhere.
Okay.
They're gonna
so you got technology coming in. That's great. Renika?
Well, we've got the product launch of Organics coming for sure. We're selling franchises. Our core business, Elegance Cleaning Service, will maintain. But I'm thinking I might take it public now. So why not?
Adam?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, so we're looking at 20 to 50% growth, depending on how optimistic we feel that day's projections. We took this year to really kind of say, okay, how do we re-go and refine some new strategic partners that can help us grow our business? So a lot of 2016 was spent finding new partners that are far, far larger than us to say, how can we structure with you? How can we find things that you need done that you aren't doing, and then bring our expertise in there? And we see those, it got very strong towards the end of the year, and we've been invited into some pitches that we never would have been invited into otherwise, with some really, really big name retailers on both retail and the e-commerce side. So it's really just kind of making sure that everything all the plants we planted last year get watered and hopefully bear fruit this year.
Nice. Shelley?
So in 2016, our goal was to have the same revenue with less attorneys, so higher profitability. And we did that. We actually beat our revenue with less attorneys. So in 2017, my attorneys tell me we're going to, and I say that they tell me what they're going to do. So they tell me they're going to be 20% up in revenue. They're going to be 30% up in profits, which means we're going to way blow past the $1 million range. And we, the soft goals or the people goals, we will be focusing on more relationships with brokers. We really do well with our mergers and acquisitions practice, where we do a lot of deal work. So we want to meet more bankers, more CPAs. We get a lot of referrals from other attorneys. We get referrals from all of you, business brokers. And the big goal for the year for me is to get me more out of the day-to-day operations of the firm so that I can do more rainmaking and they can run the firm.
So I want to thank you guys for sharing your stories, and just acknowledge that it's extremely rare to have business owners kind of share their growth, and it's because we have such a deep bullpen of 8 years of us seeing each other's growth, that you could share the kind of how you started, what you did to build your business, where you're at, and be really honest, with what's going on. So I just want to give them a round of applause for sharing, And I want to tell you, I've been very fortunate now that I'm getting invited to speak out of the area to different places in Gainesville and Orlando. And I'll say something, and they're like, how do you know all this stuff? I was like, I hang out with really smart people. And I'm being serious. They're like, how do you know this or that? I'm like, I meet a lot of amazing people, and we share what we know. So I have a very well-rounded knowledge of different things. Not that I'm any smarter. It just, I think we all reinforce each other, and we lock shields, and we help each other. I just want to let you guys know I'm proud of the growth that you have. I know you've had, it's not easy. I mean, everybody has ups and downs. There's challenges. But I look at 2017 and really look forward to everybody growing and helping each other grow. So what I'd ask everybody here to do is before you leave, come say thanks to our keynote presenters. This is the last platform of 2016. Bittersweet, but we will turn the chapter into 2017. I really hope we see you at the workshop next week. That'll be the last workshop TBBO event for the year. So if everybody could come out, we'll have a really fun time. But guys, let's give them a round of applause and come on up and let's take a group shot. Great job.